and welcome to That's Life. I'm Marcia Boyles, and as always, I'd like to start by introducing my co-host and co-producer, Kathleen Taylor. Good morning, Kathleen.
Good morning.
And I'd like to also add, because it's particularly pertinent today, that your new position, newish position, is clinical social worker at the medical center.
Yes.
Well, today we have a skit, a two-scene skit, that actually involves the medical center for the first time. And this is one of our, what has become kind of standard cautionary tales.
Right. What not to do.
What not to do, absolutely. And it involves a visit by a resident to the medical center. And let me tell you who is starring in this. It is Carol Tippett, who is playing the patient who comes to the medical center. Her friend Eloise Stinger, and they're having lunch afterward at Woodland Skies. And I get to play the doctor this time, which was great fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed. Do you want to talk a little bit about the rationale for doing the skit?
Yeah. I think, since I'm now in the medical center, I'm becoming more and more aware of sometimes the issues that arise when people come and see the physician. And, whether they feel like they're being heard, whether they feel like they're being understood, those kinds of questions. And so I started to think about how our residents can be better patients, how they can be better at taking responsibility for the information that they have about themselves, because they're the ones who know their bodies best. So how, giving people the idea that when they come in to see the physician, it's great to have some really clear information to provide the doctor so that the doctor can now do what they do best, which is diagnose and treat. So that was sort of the thought that we had in terms of going ahead and doing these skits.
Yes, it was, and we'll have a discussion at the end, which you will lead, in ways that we can maximize the benefits
Maximize
of
the
a
visit. Yep, absolutely.
All right, well, with that, we'll stop and have the skit.
Yep.
Hello, Mrs. Mays. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Doctor.
It's been 6 months since you were here last. How have you been feeling?
I've been feeling pretty good.
Good. I think we'll start today with a look at your medications and see what our records have to say. Hold on just 1 minute and let me get this. All right. Do you know what medications you're taking?
Well, let's see. I know I'm taking one small yellow pill and one medium yellow pill and a pink gel cap and my daughter puts my medications in those little boxes. Her hands work so much better than mine do. So I just take whatever is in the compartment for that day. So I'm not really sure what I take.
All right, so you're not sure what you're taking. Are you aware of any changes in your medication since the last time you were here?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm taking one new pill, Doctor. It's something that for my knees. It helps with my knees.
Are you still having problems with your knees?
Yes, I am.
All right, we'll come back to that in a minute.
Okay.
So what are you taking that's new?
I'm not really sure exactly what it is. It's something my neighbor gave me. Her surgeon prescribed it for her after her last surgery, and she had an extra bottle, so she gave it to me, and it really makes my knee feel really good. Really
Okay,
good.
all right. You don't know what it is?
No, I don't think so. Let's see. I don't think I do know what it is.
All right. One word of caution. It's never a good idea to take a medication that's been prescribed for somebody else. That can be dangerous. So what I would like to have you do is to stop taking it, and if it's helping that much, bring it in and we'll take a look and see what it is and see whether it could be prescribed for you. But do stop in the meantime.
Okay.
Since we're talking about medications, are you being careful to follow the directions for your medications in terms of when you take them, how many to take, and things of that sort?
Oh, I think so, yes.
All right. I know, for example, that you indicated that you like a glass or two of wine with dinner, which is fine, but there are some medications that aren't to be taken with alcohol.
Yes.
All right. And so you're aware of these things.
Yes,
all right,
ma'am.
good. But you're not quite sure what you are taking right now.
I guess not.
All right. Well, here I've just printed out a list for you. Here is your current medication list. And what I'd like to have you do is put all your medications, both those that are prescribed and anything else you're taking, supplements or vitamins or anything else. Put them all in a big brown bag and bring them in your next appointment. And since your daughter does that, if you would like to bring your daughter in, that would probably be helpful as well, if she's available.
Oh, I'll see about that.
All right, good. That would be good. All right, now I also ordered blood work. Did the medical center call you about that?
Yes, they did. I'm afraid I forgot to come in. I did call and apologize, though.
All right. All right. As long as you can do that in the next few days, would that be convenient for you to do?
Yes,
All
of
right.
course.
All right. Make an appointment at the front desk to have your blood drawn so that we can get those results the next time you're here as well.
Okay.
All right.
Now, I did go to California to visit my other daughter a few weeks back, and she took me to her doctor. It was a orthopedic doctor or maybe a chiropractor, and he gave me some prescriptions too. I had a sore throat, so he also gave me an antibiotic, but I stopped taking it. It was upsetting my stomach. He did take x-rays of my knee.
You were having problems with your knee. Is that why you went?
Yes. And he said there was a problem.
You don't have his report, do you?
No, I don't.
Did you get a report from him?
I think my daughter got it.
All right. If you could get a copy of that report and the x-ray too, if that's possible, and be sure to put that prescription. Are you still taking the prescription he gave you?
Yes, the one for my knee.
Yes. All right. Be sure to put that in the brown bag along with your other prescriptions.
Okay.
All right. Is anything else concerning you? Have you seen Dr. Martinelli since you were here last? I know you had seen him in the past.
No, I don't think I've seen him since then.
All right. You may need to consider seeing him again if your pain continues.
All right.
Anything else of concern to you at this point?
No, I don't believe so. Thank you, doctor.
Are you using the Green Spring Medical Center portal to access your information?
I tried using that once, but I guess maybe I wasn't following the directions right because I wasn't very successful.
All right. If you're interested in being on it, and it certainly is convenient to be able to access your information, the medical center can provide help getting you on it. So, by all means, come back and talk to us about that if you're continuing to have problems. What I'd like to have you do then is stop at the desk and make an appointment. Tell them to schedule you to see me next week. In the meantime, you will be bringing in all your medications, both prescription and non-prescription, and you will be bringing in the report from California if you can get that, and you'll also have the blood work done before that. So I will see you next week.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you.
Oh, Nancy, I'm so glad we're having lunch today. I just got finished with an appointment in the medical center, and oh, I'm not feeling very good about it. I'm really a little bit upset.
Well, are you ill? What happened?
No, it was my 6-month appointment with Dr. M. It wasn't anything special.
But you like her. What's the problem?
Yes, I do like her. She's a very nice lady. But I just didn't get a very comfortable feeling about today's appointment. I just felt like she really didn't understand what was going on with me. I didn't get any useful information. Maybe I should change doctors.
My goodness, well, what did she say that bothered you so much?
Well, she really seemed obsessed with my meds. She wanted to know if I was paying attention to taking things with the right directions, and was I taking anything with alcohol that shouldn't be taken with alcohol.
Oh, dear Joan, I gather you did not tell her about your double martini lunches with your son.
Oh, that doesn't happen very often.
Well, you said he comes every week.
Oh, well, of course I didn't tell her that. That's way too personal.
Well, Joan, I really hope that you will listen to all her advice. She's my doctor, too, and I really trust her. Do you think your daughter could come next time?
Well, maybe that's a good idea. I'll see if we can work that out. Oh, here comes our waiter now.
Terrific.
Well, those were good skits. I call the first one with the doctor the reluctant patient. I felt like the poor doctor was really having to pull information out of you.
It was a struggle.
It
I'll
was a
attest
struggle.
to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as the patient, what were you thinking when you were having that interview with the doctor?
Well, you know, I think, let's face it, to some extent, when we go to see a doctor, we're a little timid, I think, don't you? Mm-hmm. That's a normal thing, and I think as we age, it gets a little bit more. There's a little bit more of that. I mean, you know, as we age, we're always worried, is there something that's going to be wrong that I don't know about? And so I think there's a little bit of a reserved nature to visiting the doctor.
Yeah, I think that might be right. I felt like you were kind of waiting for the doctor to ask the questions. You weren't offering a lot.
Right.
But I think I know when we prepare these skits, Marcia writes these skits and they have a lot of what not to do in them. So there was definitely a lot of what not to do in that for sure.
Right.
This was a cautionary tale.
It was another one of our famous cautionary tales. But not really sort of knowing what your medications were. That was an important one. Sort of, I don't know, they put them in those little boxes and I take them. so that was something that we look at a lot. Taking medications from friends.
That's a definite no-no.
That was a definite no-no.
Yeah, that is a no-no. Mm-hmm.
We know we have problems seeing other physicians and not bringing the reports in. That is something that we also see fairly often. So it was a good sort of example of the things that we would like residents not to do when they come in as a patient, because you have responsibilities.
Right.
You have your own responsibilities.
I thought the line that she didn't want to talk, and this came up later, but the line that she didn't want to talk about alcohol use because it was too personal.
It was too personal.
Was one that we really should talk maybe a little bit about. I read an AARP article recently that indicated that 10% of people, they said, fib about alcohol use or cigarettes. Now, I don't think cigarettes are probably a big issue at Greensboro, but I think, but that apparently is typical, that folks don't tell or lie about it. And are there other things, do you guys think, that are too personal, quote unquote, to talk about?
Well, in the same vein, I think probably people overestimate how much exercise they get. That's another thing that I think. And who knows, maybe even sleep, how much sleep they're getting at night. I think there's a tendency, and again, I think it's an age issue, to be a little reticent about opening up and being honest.
Because if you're too honest, they may find something you don't want to know about.
Yeah.
I really think that's
I don't know if it's age, though. I almost wonder if it's just not, we're going to get ourselves in trouble if we admit to too much, and that's sort of like, no matter how old you are, if you admit to, doing something that is kind of wrong, then what's going to happen? Are you going to get a scolding? But it really does kind of impact the doctor's ability to diagnose and treat people for sure. But yeah, there's a lot of things that I think people are not forthcoming with. One of the questions the doctors ask, I know, is have you had any falls recently? I don't think a lot of people sort of admit to a fall, or they redefine fall in a way that they can answer no to, honestly.
I think that happens every visit for me here. That's the first question, I think, and I think it's the nurses that ask it, but
Yes.
that's the first thing they say is, have you had any falls?
Right,
And of course, they're talking about since the last visit.
right. Right.
So.
Yeah, and I think that people don't sort of put that in the context of, well, I had a fall. It wasn't really a fall. It was kind of a slip, and I'm okay. Nothing got hurt. But sometimes frequent falls are indicators of something
else.
bigger. So if the doctor again doesn't have that information, or has to play detective and really kind of dig, it does impact their ability to do a good job. And you, on the other hand, when you were talking to your friend, sort of felt that the doctor wasn't doing a good job.
Well, I don't remember
what you said
interpreting
exactly.
that she wasn't doing a good job. I just remember that the line was implying that I just didn't feel like she was getting me.
understood
She
you.
wasn't getting
That
me.
She
was
wasn't
it.
on top of your situation.
Yeah.
So if she's not a mind reader,
Exactly.
how would she be able to do that? I think that was a really good point.
And I think your character also was becoming aware of the fact that she really did not know what her medications were, what other doctors she'd gone to, why she'd gone to them. So there was a reluctance to admit that maybe the doctor was right and you needed to have an advocate or do something.
Okay, you think that was part of the problem?
But I'll be willing to bet you that that's a fairly frequent occurrence
Sure.
here at Green Spring, that there are people who have sort of lost the ability to know exactly what they're taking and why. And so therefore a relative, a daughter or a son, is doing exactly what the skit said, putting the pills in the box
Right.
and then saying, Mom or Dad, make sure you take each day, take the pills that are in there. So I think that's a very realistic.
I do too, and I don't think it's only here. I have friends who
Oh,
don't know
everywhere,
why
yeah.
they're taking something. They're
Right.
just taking it because the doctor told them to.
Right.
Yes, and in
But
some cases, it's 10 or 15 medications.
Well,
And
I
the
think that,
interaction
yeah.
is dangerous.
Exactly.
I think that's it, is just the sheer volume of pills that people are taking. I think they just sort of, it's not even that they're not able to understand or know, it's just like there's so many.
There are so
And
many.
they change, or the dosage changes. And I think, it's like, how do you keep track of that? I think we all want to just be able to keep track of our medical situation in our head.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you realize things are happening fast enough that you really need to, keep a journal or something. But I don't think a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I don't think
Or they
so either.
depend on the medical records that are being created in the medical center. But if you have specialists, that doesn't, and you don't get the information to our medical center, for example, that doesn't work either. So.
Well, and some of the older medical center records seem not to be in existence, is what I have found recently, that some of the old medications that were prescribed 6 or 8 years ago may not be in the records.
Yeah.
So I think there must have been a software change at some point.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly it, yeah.
universal.
It
The doctor's
absolutely
like,
is.
it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's
As
certainly
they
not.
convert to electronic usage or whatever, they lose some of the old records.
Yeah.
They're not there.
So keeping your own records.
It's
is a
absolutely
great
essential.
idea.
That's an important point, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's not just Green Spring.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you want to, remember that you had this pill a long time ago
Right.
and you had a bad reaction to it, you're probably the only one that's going to be able to.
Or if you're still
Speak to
taking it
that.
without
than
letting
knowing
anyone
about
know.
it without it being in your
Right.
records.
Yeah, yeah.
There's some of that too.
And I think that that's something that people, you know, they kind of go along with what medications are being taken. And I know our doctors do try to reduce medications as much as possible, but, you know, I think it's certainly something that people might want to ask about is, you know, given where I'm at in my life right now, do all these medications make sense?
Right. Why am I still taking it?
Right,
And,
right. And what's the ultimate goal?
and how is it
What are the
reacting with
side
other
effects
things that
and
I'm...
all of that, yeah.
And if I'm drinking my lunch, how is that going to impact what I'm taking? Those 2 martini lunches.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So to get back to your point about, you know, what are people not revealing to their doctors, I think that's an awful lot.
Yes, we're all protective, aren't we,
Yes.
of our reputations and our own sense of ourselves,
Yeah, our right to privacy.
our right to privacy.
So,
and our desire to look good for the doctor.
I think
There you go.
You know, it's in addition to the alcohol, the smoking, whatever else we've discussed. It's diet as well. You know, it's very easy to forget the extra cookies or the, whatever when you're talking to a doctor. So it's the same thing.
So you sort of present your ideal version of yourself when you go see the
Absolutely.
doctor.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I think we all do. Yeah, but it can turn around.
Absolutely. It
on
can-
us for sure. Yeah.
Probably not a smart thing to do.
Not at all, right?
And I think we sort of hit too on the idea of how important it might be to bring another person with you when you're going to visit your physician.
You know, I think all of us have found, particularly if there's a complicated situation that needs to be discussed, that no matter what kind of shape we're in, either mentally or physically, it's always a good idea, if it's going to be a complicated kind of discussion with a physician, always a good idea to have another person with us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The patient is
notes.
often thinking about the next thing they can ask or the next question as opposed to really listening to what the doctor's saying. And another person there will hear an unbiased.
Right, right. And they
Yeah.
can take notes. And I think the other thing that I've read some places that typically the most important question that you wanted to ask, you asked last. So you ask all these other questions that probably aren't that important. And then just as the doctor's getting ready to leave, you hit them with the most important thing that's bothering you. And then you don't have enough time to really talk about it. So I think one of the suggestions that we could make to the residents is to make a list and prioritize when you go in.
I've been using the old 3x5 card for a long time.
Yeah.
It's rather
Have you been?
old-fashioned.
Yeah.
But
Have you,
that's
Carol?
for quite some time. I have always, when I've gone for my annual physical, I've written down all the things that I wanted to talk on a 3x5 card and taken it out and put it in my hand from the get-go.
Yep, you follow
Yep.
it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I keep a folder all year of things that I read or, you know, I wonder why am I taking this medication when perhaps a different one might be better according to this
Wow.
article. And I just have a file that says questions for doctors.
Right.
And usually by the time that comes, I've already answered the question. You know, but at least it's there. It's the same idea though.
Impressive.
Of knowing.
That's impressive.
Well,
What do we think about Dr. Google?
I thank heaven for Dr. Google.
Google,
think I would
scares
Google
me
on
to
the
death.
internet.
Oh,
I would spend considerably more time at the medical center if it weren't for Dr. Google.
now I know people who spend considerably more time there because of
Because
that.
of
Because of Dr. Google.
Yeah.
They have every single
Yeah, yeah, you
Illness.
Can, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the hard part, there is great information on the internet, but there's absolutely no context to put it in. So you really can't, you have no way of judging, you know, the relative importance of what you're reading. That's what you need a doctor for, to kind of interpret that for you.
for your own body as
Yeah,
opposed
your
to
own body, what's
the
going
general
on,
public.
their experience. You know, yes, that, you know, theoretically that can happen, but in reality it happens, you know, not that often. Because otherwise, oh my goodness, the amount of anxiety I think that you can create in yourself by going online.
It reminds me, when I was a graduate student, I did some teaching at the medical school at Northwestern, and the story that everybody always told about medical students was the fact that by their second year, they had every single disease that they studied they went through that process of, I'm sure I have. And I think this is true with Dr. Google sometimes.
Yeah.
The more we read about a particular disease or symptom or whatever, we probably get it often.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can really terrorize ourselves if we want to, because there is so much information.
Yeah, there is.
But still, you know, to sort of
It
get an
also can be
idea
used
of
to
what you
eliminate,
want to ask. Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I really do find it, helpful sometimes, honestly. Usually my fears are allayed by looking at Dr. Google. Sometimes they're actually, I get more worried, but usually I'm less worried after reading Dr. Google.
Well, that's good. I'm trying to think, are there other things that you can think of that would be helpful to sort of point out to the residents?
I think one of the points that was made in the skit I think is a really big issue is that if you remember, the doctor pointed out that the patient should bring in all of her medications, not just the prescribed not just the prescriptions, but the over-the-counter stuff. That because the plant-based supplements and the herbal supplements, that whole industry has just mushroomed.
Oh, totally.
And the interactions between, I mean, there's so much history of interactions between those supplements and prescribed medications. And so I think it's, we've always thought it was important to make sure the doctor knew exactly what prescribed medications, but I think it's equally important. That field is just, it seems to me, is so big that it's almost mind-boggling that the physicians can keep up with all the interactions between, because those supplements are chemicals, whether whether we think of it that way or not. They are definitely chemicals.
Well, and a lot of them are not really regulated by FDA.
That's true.
And I don't think the physicians always, have full information about their effects and side effects and interactions either. I agree with you, Carol. It is really a complicated situation. I think it must be for physicians at this point.
Well, I think that's why we recommend people using one pharmacy to fill their medications. And also, I know that if you give the pharmacist all of the medications that you're on, including the over-the-counter, the herbals, and all of that, that they actually have interaction tables.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
So that
That's
if the
great.
physician doesn't pick it up, the pharmacy may.
Yeah, I mean, together, healthcare is about teamwork anyhow. We're not always,
Good point.
know everything about everything, but, that the pharmacist, and definitely if you're seeing specialists, don't get the prescription filled at the pharmacy where the doctor's office is. Bring it, if you use CVS here, bring it here so we have a better ability to kind of make sure that there aren't any interactions.
And when in doubt, you can ask the pharmacy too.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
That's
And
a
they
good
can
point.
always, I mean, you get your readout from the medical center as far as what your meds are, but you can always get one from the pharmacy too, so. So yeah, that's really an important thing. There's a lot to do with medications that we have to think about for sure.
And nowadays those interactions are also including foods. If you do you remember the grapefruit diet? That people were eating lots and lots and lots of grapefruit in replacing other foods with grapefruit, but supposedly that was a way to lose a lot of weight. But nowadays, we've even found out that grapefruit interacts with certain supplements and certain medications, and so people are having to limit the amount of grapefruit. Did you know that? It's true.
Well, I'm not a big grapefruit eater, so that's good. But there's probably something else that I do eat that's interacting
I
with
think
something.
most folks have eliminated grapefruit from their diets.
You don't serve it anywhere anymore.
No, that's
because
right.
of the
because
interaction.
of all of the drug interactions and stuff. Yeah. Well, they're telling us it's almost time to wrap up. So, any last words of wisdom for our watchers?
Honesty, and I'm serious. I think that's the most important. The honesty and having an advocate, to me, are the two of the most important.
Agreed. Agreed. And for me, it's recognizing that you have a responsibility, just like your physician has a responsibility, and that you are partners working together.
Good word.
Yes.
Good word.
Anything else? Oh, that was a good skit, you guys.
Thank you.
I
It was
enjoyed
fun
it.
to do.
So I think we're good. Until the next time, we're going to get you guys back in to do another skit soon.
At least another skit.
I keep wondering when you're going to run out of subjects.
Never.
Never.
Never.